The last duel between Furia and Liquid happened in the group stage of the second edition of the Elite 6 Cup, when Liquid left defeated by 8-7. However, the outing of the two teams before that went to Liquid, proving that this match is a true toss-up, with either team being able to take the victory.
Foi 8-7, né? Poderia ter sido para qualquer dos lados. Foi jogo muito pegado, muito parelho. Então, quando é 8-7, assim, poderia ter sido para qualquer dos dois lados. E eu acho que foi jogão. Os dois jogam muito bem.
Um mapa aí onde tem que ter muita trocação, né? Um mapa favorável à bala. 8-7 bem suado ali. A FURIA vem de grande evolução. Mas ali com alguns áudios decisivos ali, umas trocas mais encaixadas, a gente conseguiu ganhar um jogo aí em meio à dificuldade, né?
In the last year, Liquid and Furia locked horns 4 times, with Liquid taking 3 of the victories. But Liquid have been stagnant and struggling to break through the barrier, whereas Furia have racked up more and more experience in international competition.
Com certeza, a gente está aprendendo a jogar jogos grandes, que a gente está acumulando casca, né? Jogando várias competições, jogando contra os melhores do mundo. Então você aprende a lidar com qualquer situação dentro do jogo e consegue jogar contra qualquer time.
And in big games, it's common for versatile players to stand out. PSK and Miracle are alike. Both are good in black and know how to adapt to situations. A significant difference, however, is in the amount of operators used by them. While Miracle accumulates 16 different choices, PSK feels comfortable with no less than 32 characters. And if we add elements like Nesk, Pala and Fantasy to this equation, we have the perfect formula for a high-level duel.
Vai ser jogão como sempre, né? Por se tratar da Liquid, eles vêm com 2 mudanças na line, né? Mas eu acho que o time deles tem a melhorar, então com certeza vai ser jogão.
Cara, eu acho que o confronto hoje contra a FURIA vai ser do mesmo jeito, vai ser um jogo pegado. A gente não pode dar mole pros caras, senão eles vão engolir na gente. Acredito que a gente consiga ganhar, independente aí de quanto for o resultado. Mas com a line nova aqui, eu acho que a gente pode dar mais trabalho aí.
The expectation for this duel includes a lot of emotion, blood, sweat and tears left on the server by both teams. Will we get another tight score? How will the new Liquid fare against Furia? It's time to find out now as Team Liquid take on Furia.
Hello everyone, welcome back to coverage of the BR6. Our fourth and final match is upon us here, and as we've said, this is the one you've been waiting for. Our main card event tonight is Furia versus Liquid. Furia have been so just absolutely red hot at the moment. 4-1 their record in this stage here. Liquid coming out of a roster change, significant roster change too. They're at 3-2, but we saw them get up yesterday with a 7-4 win over MIBR. Gio, this one's going to be great. These two teams are in great touch. They're in great nick. They're, Liquid has got a long and storied history behind them. Furia are the hot, I don't want to say up-and-coming team, but they are the team that are just in impeccable form at the moment. We're going to see some terrific siege.
Oh, I totally think so. I mean, especially given how we saw Furia play yesterday, for example, against Ints. It was borderline flawless. I mean, Furia, I said it earlier, every win that they've had this stage, which has been all but one of their games, has been at minimum a 7-3. So Furia really are on a hot streak. They look absolutely unbeatable. Team Liquid, obviously, we always know them to be particularly strong. We're seeing how their new players, Resets and Ask, are doing, filling in the space that Moringa and Sexy Cake have left over. And you know what? They've been doing a great job of it as well. So I think this is going to be basically like Clash of Titans.
Yeah. Instead of a David and Goliath, we just got 2 Goliaths this time around, Ollie, and it's going to be really, really good fun to watch. Let's get into the map, Vito, and Ollie, you can talk us through what we're looking at here and where we might end up. We've seen some maps held back. You know, we haven't seen Clubhouse. We haven't seen a lot of some of the maps that have been popular in previous rounds. Your intimation was that might be because they're holding back strats for, the Copa Elite 6, that sort of stuff. Talk us through what we might see here.
Yeah, I think Alamar put it quite well. I think it's, it's good to hear it from a player perspective that it's probably going to be one of the hardest LATAM League finals that we're going to see. And part of that is due to the shape of the teams and the shape of the maps that they have been playing. Here we are going to be going to a Kafe. which is quite a surprise. Honestly, we really don't get to see a lot of Kafe here in this region. It really is something that's worth stressing. It's a map that comes out at international events. It's a map that we get around a little bit, but it's by no means a popular one. Both these two teams have played it, and they have played at this stage, so there's a little bit of recent form on here. Most notably, Team Liquid played MIBR on this map, and we've also seen FURIA play this map as well against Black Dragon. So it's been played a couple of times so far at this stage. I think that's probably one of the reasons why we've ended up here, FURIA making that decision. Strange to see FURIA ban at the Chalet. Liquid are a good Chalet team, or at least they were in a previous iteration. Obviously with changes, there's a question as to whether that remains, but still showing that respect and taking us to Kafe. It really is a bit of a level playing field for both these sides.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to put it. You know, Kafe is an underexplored map in this region for sure. We didn't see a whole lot of it throughout the Stage 2 period as well. Came out a little bit in the LATAM League finals. We had players a little keener to pick it, but you know, that's just the nature of the beast when you get to the higher stakes tournaments, of course. But it'll be good to see a little more work from these players on this map. Let's talk about what we can expect from both of these teams. G, you've already set this up by saying that FURIA look unbeatable. They're in terrific form. You know, as you say, the wins that they've had have been utterly dominant here. Liquid have got the pedigree as a name, but they're in this awkward position where, you know, they're searching that cohesion, that teamwork that only can really come with time and game experience, given that, you know, 40% of their team is new to the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Team Liquid have not shown that, but it's just they've had a lot of wins. They've had a lot of good games. They've also had a lot of overtimes, though, and I want to see more dominance for them.
All right, well, let's see who will come out on top here. Our fourth and final match is about to get underway as part of coverage of Day 8, Day 8 of the BR6. Thanks for being with us. Let's head down into the game right now. And your casters, of course, it's Gio and Ollie.
Thank you very much, Riley. Last game of the night, last game of the weekend here. FURIA versus Liquid. I don't think I could think of a better way to finish off the weekend, Gio. I'm a fan of this fixture.
Yeah?
Yeah, I stand it.
Well, what are you going to do if FURIA lose? Are
Um,
you still going to stand it?
maybe depression nap.
Yeah?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a pre-bedtime depression nap.
Yeah. Like buy some pizza and cry into it.
Maybe. I don't think I'll need to, though.
Oh, you think FURIA are going to win?
I'm not too sure. It's certainly.
Yeah, I do not know.
I just think back to the way that we saw Liquid play against MIBR on this map, and they played really well.
Yeah.
Like really, really well. And obviously, with new players coming into the team, there's opportunity to spread the wings and learn new maps as a collective. And I just feel like that injection of a bit of fresh ideas, a bit of fresh energy into a team can do a lot in terms of trying to dissect a new map. And maybe that's where we're going to see Liquid sort of settle on a little bit more often. But as the bans have come in, we've got Hibana, Thatcher, a Mute, and a Malusi. Nothing too earth-shattering. Kind of like the Malusi ban.
Been a while.
Bit of a fan of that.
It's been a while since she's been banned. My thing, I think, with Team Liquid for this map is thinking back to the game that they did play against MIBR. The player I'm going to be looking at the most is definitely going to be Ask, because Ask had some real pop-off rounds, and I think without them, MIBR would have taken a lot more off of Team Liquid than they actually did. So for me, if Ask is on it today, Team Liquid are going to have a great game. If he's not, then that's probably a gap that FURIA would be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And if we think to where that sort of gap is going to be filled from, Resets is a player who we've highlighted a couple of times now to kind of be underperforming a little bit, if we're going to be totally honest with each other. So we'll have to see how Ask is able to maintain that fragging power while still fulfilling that very support-based role that he's on.
He's decided to bring along this Ace to be attacking onto Reading and Fireplace. I'd imagine that's going to be used down in Pillar. Of course, with Hibana banned out, if you want to have any kind of long-range hard breach, you're going to have to use him. I suppose there's also a high likelihood that they could use it upstairs once they're actually doing this top floor clear, and maybe have to breach onto the washroom wall or the backstore wall, for example. see how it is they go about it. Also bringing along, you know, things like this Finca and like this Flores, it's really going to help facilitate Team Liquid to get the clear that they need.
Liquid taking the time with this approach here. What to deal with. It's a comment that we've made a couple of times, and the lack of flank watch is disturbing, but when you got Palu playing on the hatch, you don't always need it. Rare gets caught out there. He maybe got a little bit too eager, and it's kind of befitting that it's Palu that shuts him down there, as that is a classic Palu position to be playing in. Especially in the context of this map, we regularly see Palu play Goyo on this top floor, and we've seen him already this weekend cause havoc on those rotations. Just puts a bit more pressure here in onto FURIA. Oh, Miracle, what? No! Caught in 4K!
That's the worst timing. The worst timing. He's going to be so frustrated with that one. I mean, at least he didn't lose his life for it, but the crosshair was perfectly lined up. Lender's going to be getting a kill onto Ask instead. Now it's a 4 versus 4 at this point. 1 minute remaining. PSK still sending in the Reterra drones as Resets lobs the nade down the stairs to shift Lender out of his place. Liquid look like they're on a pretty good trajectory for dealing with everything that's in their way. That time certainly is ticking down.
Well, an equal 1-for-1 trade does somewhat nullify. PSK can now look to try and hop in. He's used his terror drones from the safety of the roof. He's no doubt assisted in opening up some of that floor as well as removing utility. A diffuser now will be juggled, but Fantasy, when can he be stopped? Well, the answer is quite quickly. Nesk shuts him down instantly as a 1-for-1 trade. 3 versus 3, 11 seconds. Diffuser in the capable hands of Palu, but there's still a lot of site players to contend with here. Palu picks up 2 and Resets finds the final kill. Big showing from him, finding the scoreboard in the first round. Very important here for Liquid. Bit of a clutch for round number 1.
Palu actually had a pretty good day the other day as well. You know,
Yeah.
Not that he's the kind of player who you're necessarily going to expect to be going on a tear in the same way that Nesk does, but Palu knows how to be in the right place at the right time, collect like 2 kills, which can completely turn around, or just ensure that it goes into Team Liquid's pocket. That's something that he was doing a lot yesterday, or in their last game that they played, and exactly what he did in that round just there. So I definitely would like to see some more of that. Now, we're going to be going to Purification.
Oh, good old Purification.
I love a bit of Purification. It's just such a... I don't know why... we discussed this, didn't we? The etymology of Purification. Or was it Purificação, as you probably pronounce it in Portuguese? But either way, we're going to Mining and Dining.
It's become a very popular site.
Yeah.
It's arguably overtaken reading for a lot of teams. At least it's more in the conversation now than it ever was. And I think the teams have just found a little bit more comfort with it. We'll see. Not known for being a very kind map for the attackers, isn't Kafe? It can be somewhere where you often find yourself under a significant time pressure pinch. So for Liquid to come away with an early round is really going to bode quite well for them. And it speaks to that work that they've been putting in on that coordination and that teamwork. You wouldn't have thought it a problem at all for old Team Liquid to coordinate themselves on an attack for this map. It's difficult, but they can do it. But the fact that they were all in a very good position there, sure, it ran short of time, but they got everything done that they needed to do. And that moving quickly is certainly going to be key here for them.
Well, we'll see how quickly they do end up moving. Okay, getting a kill into Fantasy, actually, that's pretty valuable. Fantasy, if you just leave him be, let him tear things up, you're going to be leaving in tatters. So getting him dealt with nice and early will make Team Liquid's life a little bit easier. Still looking to take control of that top floor. Lender dropping down now means the cocktail has been left open, and I'd say it's an okay time in the round to be doing that. Maybe a little bit early, but of course, they just want to be safe. You don't want to hang around for too long and then find that your defense completely falls apart, because I think the way that this site particularly is spaced on the map, like where it is, means that if you just don't have enough people there to defend it, then the attackers are going to flood in really easily. So you don't want to be too ballsy on your roam.
A couple of C4s available here for Furia. Rare's going to leave his on the ceiling there, just waiting for the call. The camp is destroyed, and Palu can start to rip up that floor. Isn't going to go too ham at the moment, though. Instead, just checking out on the drone, see if there is anybody that's thinking about that late flank. It is something Liquid need to be mindful of here, and they need to be actively flicking onto those drones. With all of them still alive, there's going to be no one dedicated to those cameras. And there's a chance that Furia are able to slip on by. It would be a ballsy play, but they're more than capable of it. Info now being gathered. PSK some of the arrow drones into sight. You can hear the skeleton key continuing to cause further destruction. Rare next to fall as Nesk is able to shut him down. Miracle seeing a bit of damage as well and desperately trying to deploy the rest of his utility. Highs is going to be holding the hatch from below. But Lender now thinks that it is a good time to strike. Starts thinking about a bit of a rotation, but a plant has to be on the cards here. With the diffuser cold at the bottom of white, it's going to be very difficult. Lender picks up 2 very important kills as Highs looks to try and join him. Lender's on for a triple. Can Highs assist? Yes, he can. Miracle joining the party as well. Furia, they hold on.
That was actually super pivotal for Furia. The fact that Lender, earlier on in the round, he dropped down, he relinquished that space upstairs, but then he still found his way back up. So that meant that Team Liquid kind of forewent clearing that upstairs and worrying about it. They turned their sights and their attention to what was happening on that middle floor. And it meant that Lender could come down and provide that flank, really valuable flank, getting those 2 kills for himself without Team Liquid expecting it, and really turn the tides at the end there. Highs being able to provide some support at the end, also great, but ultimately I don't even know if that mattered a crazy amount because time was going to run out anyway. But honestly, that kind of flank control from Furia, really good. And I hope that keeps Team Liquid on their toes, because they're going to know now that if they don't keep an eye on that, then it's going to be abused by Furia.
Good to see Furia having a good game. Well, at least contributing in terms of the kills a little bit deeper than just Fancy as well. You know, I don't think that yesterday's game is necessarily the best benchmark to be bringing up, given that it was a little bit of an anomaly. Fancy going 22 for 2. But Lender didn't have a great game yesterday. Now, there's only so many kills available when someone's popping off that hard. But there were a couple of occasions and a couple of gunfights where we were thinking he could and he didn't. That was one of those occasions where he was in the right position at the right time and he was able to come away with the kill. So good to see that that depth is here on Furia today, and that the kills are being spread evenly from the get-go. Lender lining up a very cheeky C4. Now, Palu is, of course, going to be familiar with this one. Is he going to be in the right place at the right time? The timing just baits out the rappel a little bit longer than necessary. Keeps himself alive. It's a risky place to rappel up, but it does usually provide the quickest way onto the roof, but he gets away with that one.
Yeah, hey, at least he doesn't need to worry about the C4 anymore now that that's been expended. He can continue on living his life. Just seeing what it is that Team Liquid have brought along. It looks like it's pretty much the same as before. Fantasy holding on here in the washroom, knowing that Team Liquid are on rappel of Piano. This would be pretty good if he can get a kill from this position, but of course, the aim for Team Liquid is going to be to clear him out. That Vulcan shield has been exploded. He's going to have to worry about the angles coming in from behind on the white corridor window, as well as what could be happening in front of him too.
Partly on his signature rappel, he loves that south side and the angle that he can hold off just into the awkward area at the top of White Stairs and outside of the washroom, but No one at this point is really giving him anything to go off. Fury are doing a really good job of sitting back in this defense and just letting the attack happen. Which is a pretty fortunate position to be in, really, because Liquid are also moving a little bit slower than necessary, and they could really start to inject a little bit of pace into this. Maybe PSK is going to start to activate that with those Rotero drones and the info that he can gather on the site.
Nesk opening things up onto Fantasy. It's a long way into the round to be getting the opening kill, but I suppose that's just a testament to how carefully both of these teams are playing this and how much respect they're paying to one another. Lender just watching out for what may come from Pixel, but the answer to that right now is just a Gemini. That was a really nice kill onto him from Ask, however. That opens up a lot of space on that top floor for Team Liquid to work with.
This flank is being actively watched. Who needs a Nomad when you've got a Palu? Palu lands his shots onto Rare. For the second time, it's worth adding. And it just increases the pressure that Highs is now going to be feeling. Picks one, but it is impactless. Ask grabs that final kill. He was able to pick up a really nice one earlier onto Lender and be available in the later part of the round to shut down once again. Liquid, they are treating this very, very checklist indeed. They aren't rushing a single thing here, and it's looking exceptional. They're really putting the pressure onto Furia, and I think Furia may be just playing a little bit too passive in that regard. A comment during that round, Joe, about how Furia were doing a good job of just letting everything happen to them, but the positions they were holding just weren't sufficient, and they weren't able to win those crucial gunfights.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. I think it's curious because Furia was something that we've seen of them throughout the course of this stage has been really explosive opening engagements. And that's just not something that's been the case here, I don't think. And we're still waiting, I think, for Fantasy to kind of turn on and be fully present. And that hasn't necessarily been the case. We're just waiting for, I suppose, the lobby to get remade because Furia have all left. So I'm assuming that they're having an issue with their internet. That their house internet has just gone down. I think it was Furia who that happened to a week or so ago.
Team One.
Well, so,
Team One's power. Team One's power went. That was it, because they had a storm.
Okay, it wasn't Furia then. But yeah, I would like to see them be a little bit more explosive, and maybe part of that. I was going to say maybe part of that is because they're playing on the defense, but I don't even necessarily think that Furia are a team who are poor on defense by any means. I think that they are giving a lot of respect to Team Liquid, which is cool, that's great. It's not that they're playing badly or doing anything outright wrong, it feels a bit not even passive, just it's not the Furia that we've seen in a number of games.
It is strange, and for anyone that's, maybe wondering if this is just, if Fantasy doesn't show up, do Furia as a whole not show? It's not necessarily the case. Obviously, Fantasy is a big part to play in this roster, but he's supported very well. This team has quality, and it runs deep, and it runs throughout. Highs and Miracle are both inside of that top 10 players for rating in the whole league. So, along with Fantasy, of course, as well. So they've got quality there. They've got a lot of skill inside of the roster. It really isn't a situation where we're hoping and praying that one player pops off. So we just need to see if that's something that they can sort of find the confidence to do. Because, as you mentioned, Gio, it does seem almost, is it a confidence thing at the moment? Is it that they really weren't expecting a Kafe? What really is it that's coming into this? Because we've only seen a handful of rounds, but so far Liquid are looking really good, and I don't think that that's too much of a surprise given how they played against MIBR, but we've also seen Furia do very well on this map as well.
Yeah, I think it would be a bit far to say it's a confidence issue. Furia absolutely do not strike me as the sort of team who are going to have confidence problems. I do think it's a respect thing, though. I think that they know any misstep they make, Team Liquid will punish that, so they don't want to be too cocky about it, which I think is totally fair enough for the record. Just like having a look who have Fury even played so far in this stage. Team 1, they beat them 7-3. That was at the beginning of the stage where Team 1, they usually start off a stage a tiny bit shaky. Then it was Santos. Okay, it's a team you'd expect them to beat. Versus NIP, that is the only game that FURIA have actually lost, and that was an 8-7 overtime. So, that went all the way. Against Black Dragons, they got a 7-1. Against INTS, they got a 7-2. This is other than NIP. This is essentially the first really hard game they've had. And the reason I leave Team 1 out of that is because it was on Playday 2. And so Team 1 usually just need that warm-up time. So while we talk about these amazing results that FURIA have had so far in this stage, have they really been up against opponents that FURIA would want to pay more respect to? For the most part, no. They haven't been. So I think that's part of the reason that we haven't seen a FURIA that's being a bit more cautious until this point.
Another thing worth bearing in mind is that out of the 6 times that these two guys have played against each other, we've actually seen Liquid win 5 of those, and FURIA have only won once. Now, they did win the last time that these two faced off. It was in the Copa Elite 6 Stage 2 finals. But all up until that point, all the regular stage play, SI groups, everything that's gone on in terms of the BR6, it's been a Liquid win. And it's been a Liquid win fairly convincingly all but once. So you've got to sort of weigh that into consideration as well. We've mentioned that FURIA are this up-and-coming side, which still seems a little bit weird to say given that they've made it out of groups at both recent international events. But they're always going to have that, not quite chip on the shoulder, but there's that point to prove inside of LATAM against people that they will have sort of grown up looking up toward. These guys will have watched Team Liquid, and the successes that these guys have seen as a team before these guys have become pros. A lot of the guys on FURIA are very young. So I think there's a little bit of that starts to get sprinkled into the mixture as well. And it boils down to the respect thing. But thanks for bearing with us. We are back into the game. It seems as though the internet issues for FURIA have been resolved. Fortunately, we didn't have to remake either, so all of the data remains, which is always a bonus. And we can just carry on as if nothing happened, Gio.
I am curious about the fact that Team Liquid have been given permission to change some of their operators. I saw that Blackbeard that they picked.
I didn't pay that much attention to it.
They did. They were allowed to change 2 of their operators, and then Ask did a 6-pick after that. So PSK was actually on Blackbeard before. I don't remember what Ask was on. And then Ask 6-picked over onto Maverick.
Well, I'm sure it is all legal.
I wanted to see a Blackbeard, Ollie.
Blackbeard's trash.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see it. I'm not saying it because Blackbeard is like the pinnacle of good Siege. I'm saying it because I like seeing something different.
Well, depends how much window play we're going to see, I guess. Maybe it could have been the play, but I don't know. It's a fairly standard lineup at least now, and Ask has switched off, and he's now on the Maverick. We've seen him on the Ace a couple of times, but you can just tell that Ask is desperate to get himself onto more of that fragging role. And I think as he develops himself as a player, he's probably going to start to sort of gravitate toward that area, because for as good a support as he is, someone that can hit shots like that, you want him on a bit more of a fragging style role.
Well, let's see what happens. Fantasy getting nice and aggressive here on the window, but he's not going to overstep that boundary too much. I think Palu is just quite scary right now. I also wouldn't want to overstep that boundary too much. FURIA usually like playing their windows. They're pretty good at it. Rare gonna just send a message. Ensure that there is a decent amount of pressure actually being applied onto Palu here, which I think is fair enough, just because he's been able to get away with so much so far. There has to be that pressure on him. And we saw Rare try to do that in the last round, but Palu was ready to catch that flank.
Someone needs to run out on Palu when he's in that location, because he gets away with it far too often. Like you say, there's going to be a time where you can catch him out, but at least for now, they've dropped into Red Hatch and they're going to make their way through, opening up the floor and seeing if they can gain any further lines of sight. Fancy takes down Ask. Palu in with immediate trade. The vertical angle's working out for him there. The diffuser in position to be recovered here, but potentially an IC4 from Red just leaves it a little bit too late, and Paolo is able to get to the safety of that freezer hard floor. Equal 4 versus 4. Rare. Doesn't have a lot of health to speak of, but still playing inside of the laundry. No C4 either, so he can be a little bit more aggressive in this regard, but with only 25 seconds left, he really needs to try and make his life count here. The floor still being opened above with the skeleton key. Great nade coming down from Nest to neutralize Rare. I think a boost and a drop, but it's not going to be enough. Highs is in position to take down PSK, and the diffuser once again has to be recovered. Nesk is going to start to try and get that down, and there's going to be no one directly in position to challenge, not unless Fantasy hits the swing. The Yokai drone is there to deny. Fantasy hits the late swing. A great play by FURIA. Fantasy played that one very well indeed, waiting for the Yokai drone to do the hard work and then coming in to clean the kill.
Yeah, really nice to see Fantasy have such a good round just after seeming a little bit quiet in the last couple of rounds. It does mean we're now in this position where we've had Liquid Furia. I don't know how much I expect that pattern to change, Ollie. And this is that one game of the day where we thought it was the most likely for something like that to be the case. But it is that constant backwards and forwards. Now we're going to be heading down into the kitchen. So this is the first time that we will have seen this site be played today. It's certainly been interesting to see how this site has gone in the last few times that we've seen Kafe, just because Hibana and Kaid have oftentimes been either bans that have come in. Like, basically, whether or not the Hibana or the Kaid has been banned has changed a lot about what teams want to do. But one thing that we can say about this site is that teams haven't really been looking to make freezer hatch drops anymore. We've seen a lot more bakery pushes, like from the olden days, even without tons of vertical pressure necessarily. But hatch drops, garage pushes, they are antiquated and things of the past at this point.
So much so that we even see one panel reinforced there in the freezer. Now, typically if you're going to reinforce that freezer, you're still going to open up a little bit of a rotation. There's of course still time for that to happen. There is a smoke in play as well, so you could potentially play that smoke with a shield in a position to be able to deny onto a hatch drop. But I agree, Gio, it isn't something that we're seeing be particularly popular. Miracle is going to set himself up there and has the assistance of a magnet from Fantasy. Only a small rotation, but just enough for you to be able to hop on through. Now, the wall also being left soft in from bakery into kitchen does speak to a little bit more of an aggressive stance here from the defense, especially with players occupying just behind that bar. Fantasy making that rotation into the wedding. He could get himself caught out quite quickly here if he's not careful. He's very soon to be pinched, especially if somebody gets on that main door quickly.
Yeah, Nesk just holding this little pixel angle. If Fantasy steps just slightly in the wrong direction, that's going to be quite tough. Fantasy doesn't know exactly where this player outside of the bakery door is, but he's moving to a more relatively safe position where if anyone were to aggress onto him, I was going to say if anyone were to aggress onto him, he'd be safer, but he's actually staying behind the counter now. Just got to be so careful about that door behind him.
Looks like he's got ants in his pants. He can't keep still. It's almost a little bit stressful to watch because you kind of like, just stay still for a little bit. Like, they know exactly where you are all the time now. The peak is going to come in, but Fantasy, he shuts down, resets. Nobody in position to trade. Utility there being exchanged, but it isn't really working out for Liquid. He can't deal with him behind this counter. It should be a very straightforward thing to do. But the lack of Hibana is making it difficult to open up that wedding wall and to really affect onto where Fantasy is playing. And FURIA, recognizing this, are really starting to double down now. You see Toxic Babe canisters going out to further cut off that push.
I mean, I really like what Team Liquid were going for to use the Rotera drone to try and force Fantasy's position. his position has finally been forced, I suppose, with the help of a nade, but the way that you could see that communication happening within Furia, Fantasy got one of his teammates to come and support him, he got that kill onto resets, and it's essentially wasted some of Team Liquid's time because that space they thought they were going to be opening up is not yet open. So we're, 40, 50 seconds left remaining, and Team Liquid have still got to make this push. They have Bakery, they can start to convene, but I suspect that they thought they would be further along by this point than they currently are.
The big benefit here for Liquid is that that wall has been left soft, and PSK already got an angle on through it. The problem is you've still got Toxic Babe Canister to deal with in Miracle. He's got the shotgun, he's going to be playing close range. And you've got the denial that the Yokai drone provides. Highs still has one available. 14 seconds left and a push coming in through prep, but it just immediately gets dismantled. Miracle with the shotgun, lands a couple of shots. PSK with an exit frag and Rare to clean up shop. Great defensive hold there of Kitchen from Furia. And Liquid looking very one-dimensional.
Yeah, I think that one of the thoughts that I had, especially when Miracle was setting himself up on that wall, it's not the first time he's done really well this week with a shotgun, by the way. The first thing I thought was, wow, if Team Liquid had someone above the site, then the pressure that they could apply onto Miracle would be so good. Yeah. That would not be such a problem, but they didn't do it. It's really curious to me because they're now not the first team that we've seen who have decided not to play vertical pressure on the site.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes back to the MIBR Liquid game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was another game where both teams were really reluctant to play that vertical.
It's very peculiar. I just feel like it could have really helped in that situation. Obviously, it didn't help Team Liquid, the stuff that I said before about not being able to shift Fantasy using the Rotera drone and basically forcing him into a crossfire. And I really did like the crossfire that Team Liquid were trying to set up. But it didn't work for them. They had to deal with something different. Basically, if you're going to be pushing onto a site, make sure Miracle is dead, because he is formidable with a shotgun.
That's a problem. You get a feeling that Furia maybe dodged a little bit of a bullet in that last round as well, given that Ask chose to play the Maverick instead of the Ace. Because if he'd have been playing the Ace, they probably would have dealt with Fantasy a lot quicker. But the fact that they were unable to get that wall open really started to slow things down, at least from a distance. So we'll have to see if the Ace pick sticks here. Ask has switched onto it for this round at least. But if we're honest, we've got to be expecting a top floor clear here. It's very much been the way of the road for Liquid when attacking onto these mid-floor sites. That's exactly what we're going to be doing here and now. Ooh, Fantasy, don't do it. Looks as though he's tempted. The window below him is open, so it's on the cards. You can just see Twister like breathing over his shoulder. Twister's like mentally saying like, "Don't do that."
Having like a, you know, just getting some anxiety in there, like.
Yeah.
Oh no! He's moved away.
He obviously felt the presence of Twister behind him.
He felt his sweat dripping onto his shoulder. No, he's good. He's good. He's fine for now. Everything's okay. I mean, again, we're just getting so close to this mid-round point, and no one is dead.
It's just slow progress, I think. Partly slow progress, given that it's Kafe, so the attackers have got so much to do anyway. But Liquid are moving fairly slowly. And it seems considered. It seems like they're purposely moving fairly slowly.
I just worry because I feel like we've seen Team Liquid a couple of times struggle with being slow. That was a really nice trade because that means the diffuser's now dropped in a horrible position. I don't know how easy that's going to be able to recollect. 3 versus 3 for these two teams. And of course, Furia are going to know full well where that diffuser has been dropped. Fantasy just sticking his butt out though. Not going to help there. that could make it easier for that to be picked up. And of course, PSK has been able to do that now. Neska's going to send in one of his Geminis just for some information. He did manage to see Furia, who's retreated back into the site. I don't know if they know entirely. Oh, no, of course they know where Highs is. Yeah, they know where Highs is. And it's all on Miracle now.
We've seen Miracle clutch a few, but this is looking like it could be a bit of a bridge too far. He's got some information that he can look to work with as well. PSK going to try and get the plant down. Another Toxic Babe canister coming in. Is it going to be enough to put him off? It certainly is, and it almost is enough to down him. But there's still 12 seconds left. Live ping information here. Miracle finds one, swings for the second, but PSK lands his shots. Liquid risked that then. They went for the kill instead of securing that plant. They had info, but they still rolled the dice.
Definitely a risk, but is one that paid off. 3-3 at the half. Oh, man. How many times have we had 3-3 at the half in the last couple weeks? It's happened so many times. Team Liquid now going to be finding themselves on the defense, looking to go all the way upstairs. Curious about this. Fantasy, yeah, I was going to say Fantasy on the IQ. Oh no. Fantasy 6 picking off of the IQ right as Nest 6 picks onto the Valkyrie. I was literally going to say, yeah, that's a curious pick because there isn't a Valkyrie, and I guess Team Liquid, like every single operator that Team Liquid had picked seemed viable for them to want to keep, but...
Galaxy Brain.
Yeah.
Nest.
Yeah, Nest is, he's gone in there. That's not going to help Furia out that much.
I think there are some, in my opinion at least, there are some maps that it becomes just accepted that it is impossible to run an IQ on. And realistically, like, you don't want Fantasy trying to search out for those cameras, especially if any of them are outside. Because it is just such a time sink. So I think that there's just some things that you've got to accept, and that is that there are going to be a couple of cams available for the defenders that you can't get rid of when you're attacking onto Kafe, and it's just another thing that really starts to go against you. You know, there's so much... It's not even clutter, it's just like the decor of the place. It lends itself to cameras.
Is it clutter or is it decor?
I mean, it's one and the same.
It's like when you go visit your grandma.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And there's just like dollies on top of tea trays, and yeah.
Little like Swarovski crystal animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just traps.
Yeah. Well, either way, I'm very curious to see how these cameras are gonna help out. Nomad being employed, something that Team Liquid weren't really doing. They, as we said, they were just using the purely the put Palu on the stairs flank watch method.
It's a good method.
It worked pretty well.
I think a lot of teams should try it.
I don't think a lot of teams have the option to put Palu on the stairs. I think that might just be Team Liquid.
It's a shame though. It would be. I think it'd be a permaban. Maybe it'd be the new sort of Thatcher. What a name! Oh! Hello, Fantasy.
Oh my god, that was perfect.
It's a good pick as well on PSK. You remove the Maestro, the cameras not going to be able to be moved now. It removes a little bit of that potential active information, of which Liquid have got quite a bit. Nice start here for Furia.
Team Liquid have got to find some kind of response. This is just it. The thing that is like weirding me out about this game is it's uncharacteristically slow for these two teams.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, okay, Miracle. They know that someone's on the white stairs window. There's a Toxic Babe canister. These pings coming out are actually really good for Team Liquid. You know, they have all these information about where everybody is. Rez getting ready with a nade. Doesn't quite do anything. He's lobbing them really far in. I don't know. Be aware that Resets is just on the other side of that wall.
Would wager not, although Drone could give it away. Resets going to be able to take down Highs, but Miracle comes in with the immediate trade. 25 seconds left, and Ask is going to be the next player to fall. Lender pre-firing onto anything, and it will reward him. Takes down Palu. Rare going to start planting. Nesk underneath has info, but doesn't have a C4. The ping's great, but the shots are just a little bit off. Nesk gets shut down by Fantasy, recognizing where the shots were coming from, and he doesn't need much encouragement at all.
That was the whole way throughout that round. Team Liquid had so much information. They knew where everybody was. Really good pings. You could see that information all being shared out. But I think especially, you know, starting with that nade onto PSK to open things up, a couple of the kills that were just taken by FURIA, the way that they were, you know, had that angle from the... from Cocktail to go straight into Backstore, the way that they were pushed all the way up in Piano, it meant that they could hold these crossfires on the attack. So we had this perfect trade that was done, just opening Freezer up, you know, Lender getting the 2 kills towards the end. It didn't matter that Team Liquid had all this information because FURIA had the positions.
Really smart execute from FURIA. We'll see Liquid give the top floor a go. Once again, as we did kind of wonder how much of an impact the Valkyrie would have. And we're still continuing to dance in these operator lineups. Nest, this time playing the Wamai, not the Valkyrie. Miracle this time, opting for the IQ. I don't think it's going to matter all too much, but it's very telling when a Valkyrie is not chosen. That really does suggest that you didn't get anything that you wanted out of it at all, because everybody knows how powerful Valkyrie is. It's going to cause Miracle to spend at least a little bit of time here, just double checking everything until he actually realizes there are no cameras to find. Fancy. Bit of a direct approach, that, Gio. Straight up the stairs.
Why not?
Surely not.
I mean, I could actually answer that question as to why not, but at this point, I'm just curious. I'm just like, yeah, do it. I want to see what happens. I mean, he's just sneaking in through mining at this point. He knows that there's someone in there, and Palu is aware of his position as well. Just trying to hold on to this really narrow pixel peak. Fantasy gets kill onto Nest. That information is going to be passed on to Palu. The drone as well coming through, so Palu will be feeling this pressure. There's 2 of them now in mining together. It's the nade that finally actually finishes him off, and that's a lot of space straight away been taken. But what? That kill onto the diffuser outside, that's going to have to be recollected. That is not a position that FURIA want to be in.
That's a nightmare to collect as well, because that can just be watched pretty much for free.
I mean, Resets is just, he's just there.
Resets, all he has to do is try and watch onto that. He's actually dipped off. He's recognized, you know what, we probably can't keep full control of it. Ask is... He's glimpsing, he's giving it a look, but even he knows it's maybe a little bit of a stretch given the advantage that FURIA have got elsewhere. You can't really afford to just play somebody just to watch onto that. And especially with how Ask is watching onto it, he's likely going to miss it anyway, the diffuser.
I mean, look, Hayes has got 3 of his Rotera drones. Maybe he can throw one in and use that to shift position. You have to find some way of deterring these defenders.
It's very much going to be an uphill battle from here on out, especially with how much time's left. There's nearly a minute. Ask, is he going to play aggressively?
Got the diffuser. PSK, he's going to be the next to get a kill. And as you say, Ask is pushing up. PSK looked away at almost the exact wrong moment. Now he knows there is someone down there. Timing is really unfortunate here, but Ask is still doing work elsewhere on the map.
This is really where Ask starts to shine. As soon as he hasn't got that burden of hard breach or the diffuser, and he gets himself onto the defense, he really does start to pop off. Fantasy, looking to try and make his way through. What was looking pretty good for FURIA is now hanging in the balance. 2 versus 3, and the shotgun always reigns supreme. Ask, 3rd kill on the round. Hayes is able to get in there with a trade. He's got 10 seconds left, and he's very close to these last 2 defenders. But we all know what this shotgun's going to do, and he's going to pump him to the other side of the wall. Ask finds his 4th kill there on the round. Repping the Nesk charm, no less. It's going to be a good clutch up there for Team Liquid.
getting the diffuser down where it went down was huge for Team Liquid, because even if Furia weren't going to have been able to plant in that round, which they probably would have tried because Furia usually do, Furia had to send one guy elsewhere. They could not continue with their push in the way that they wanted. They could not have their men where they wanted them to be. To send highs to go off, recollect it, come in from a different angle, their entire plan went out the window. It was such... That must be one of the worst places to drop the diffuser.
And for that reason, at that point in time, it was probably a bad idea for Furia to even go after it.
Yeah, just go for the kills.
Just go for the kills. You've got the advantage. You don't need to waste the time getting the diffuser. You can just start to push on through and figure out your angles, figure out your line of approach, because all it did was it gave Furia a focus, which by default gave Liquid a focus. It's a hindsight thing. You know, obviously, it's difficult to make that call when you're in the heat of the moment. The priority obviously was to recover the diffuser and get it down, but it really was the loss of the round right there. Not necessarily losing it there, just the decision to then make everything about getting it back.
Well, Team Liquid moving now on to Kitchen. Now they've had their vindication, getting the bar defense finally. Moving on with their lives. Again, I'm so curious to see how Furia are going to tack onto here. Are they going to go for the same kind of lateral push that Liquid and MIBR have both done? Or are we going to see them go for something from above? The fact that we've got Lender on the butt suggests that maybe they could be looking to apply some vertical pressure, which would certainly be nice to see. But I don't expect a freezer push to be the one. I think they will still be focused on Bakery.
Bakery makes the most sense given what we've seen over the last couple of days. Again, a frightfully slow start here from Furia, a minute spent. It'll be nice to see if Furia do opt for any sort of vertical control. With the way that they're approaching, they're at least giving themselves that option to do so. Rare's going to make that rotation back down. Palu ready and waiting to trick onto the hatch, but for what reason, I'm pretty unsure. With the Maverick available, it's kind of a moot point. Actually, they have got the ability to use a exothermic or a Selma charge on there, but with Hibana Band as well, the Cade just becomes a little bit too boot and braces, and belt and braces, should I say, and you're going to get around that. But the vertical angles can now start to be open. Furia, the first team out of 3 to actually bother at all with these angles, Gio.
Let's hope then that it works, because for me, this was the reason that Team Liquid failed when they were pushing onto this site. Not being able to pressure anyone who was hiding behind that bakery wall, in this case it was Miracle, hurt Team Liquid a lot. They just kind of forced themselves into the firing line. Let's see, I mean, if anyone from above can actually pick anything off. Nade's going in, not quite going to be as good as the one that got PSK. Ask brought down incredibly low. He's still got 2 of his Toxic Babe canisters in pocket as well. There's fewer than 30 seconds remaining. This is going to get quite pressured.
It really is. Palu going to open up with 2 big kills there. Highs and Lender down for the count, but the diffuser's still in the hands of Rare. 15 seconds. He could look to try and get it down, but he's not being given the space to. Miracle, a late push on is not going to be enough. Shut down eventually by Nesk, but honestly, it could have been by any one of the remaining players on the side of Liquid. Furia running the clock very fine there.
Ooh, so it remains very close. Very close indeed as we move on to reading. I also just want to point out, this is completely unrelated, by the way. This is just my little side note. One thing I love about the fact that Flores is getting played is that, in my opinion, the Mirage AR-33 skin is the best of the new skins. So we get to see that.
Side note accepted.
Thank you.
I'll keep my eye out for it.
Oh, it's so cool. It's like a cool cartoony sort of thing. I love it. I love it. So getting to see a bit of that, I enjoy it because on Thatcher, so I'm like a Thatcher one trick, so obviously that means I don't get to play, but I always play the AR-33 on Thatcher as well. So the fact that the gun that I use the most in the game has what I think is the best skin, I love to see it.
I noticed Cameraman was playing the AR-33 earlier as well, and
it's a good gun.
It's always been like a real, I think it divides a lot of people.
I mean, the main reason that I like it is because you can actually have an angled grip on it.
Oh, okay. Because you're just so good at controlling recoil.
No, I'm not. But I just don't really... I don't like the feeling of vertical grip on any gun. I just don't enjoy it. So, it just feels so slow and whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be bad at controlling the gun regardless of whether it has a vertical or an angle grip on it. I might as well pick the one that feels nicer to me.
Yeah, for sure.
AR-33 rise up. Yeah, anyway, so you'll have to look out for the skin that Heise is playing with. But Team Liquid, they've come back upstairs. Well, I say back upstairs. They haven't actually played on this site yet. But it involves a lot of the upstairs to be defended. This position that Nesk is taking, this is exactly where Fantasy was playing before. But Fantasy, this was back when Fantasy was just a little bit cautious and not quite getting as much from that position in the washroom as we would have liked to have seen. So maybe Nesk will have a better time with it.
You can hear the little trickle of grenades coming through. The terror drones pinging off in the distance as well. Plenty of utility to get through here before Furia even get into a position to start dealing with players. Nesk's ADSs have been burnt there. Maybe one remains, but at least the Goyo shield has now been destroyed. He's retreated back to a previous deployable shield. Not a Goyo this time, not a Vulcan, so he can be a little bit safer behind that. Liquid seemingly happy to give up portions of control here. They do have C4s below in the hands of PSK. There's a chance that they'll make something happen with one of those. PSK really just playing for that eventuality at the moment. Fancy chipped down and boosted back up as Palu fades away as well. Top floor entirely surrendered. Now it becomes a war of C4s. They are going to be the next line of defense here for Liquid. Ask shuts down Miracle. Such a menace on that SMG. We gave him a hard time yesterday, Gio, but he's doing a great job.
He just shines so much on the shotgun, you know, you kind of forget that the SMG exists. But... Furia working to be opening up that floor. You can actually hear that. I think it was that pre-place that went off. Not finding anybody, and there's only one C4 left on the side of Team Liquid, so their ability to actually play this vertically and be a massive threat is going to be quite limited at this point. 30 seconds to go. There's another Toxic Babe canister. They really don't want anybody jumping down this hatch.
It's going to be difficult to make their way on in through the hatch, but alternate means required. Rare charges through, burns the Suri gate, and starts to confirm that plant. Ask picks up his second kill of the round. Nobody on the side of Liquid is going to have anything to say about that plant going down. So distracted, so taken advantage of. Rare picks up 2, and now Fantasy can watch from above. Still a 3 versus 2 in favor of Liquid, and one that they should look to try and retake on, but are they going to be able to do it? Nesk shuts down Rare. Fantasy, the last hope now. Going to be holding above. How much info has he got? How much assistance can his teammates provide him? He has got a line onto the diffuser. Manages to dodge out onto that C4. Nobody on the diffuser means he only needs to find 1 or 2 kills here. 12 seconds left. Sit yourself back down, but instead gets taken out by resets. The rotation comes in clutch, and PSK had nerves of steel. All Fancy needed to do was kill PSK, then it would have been a done deal based on the time remaining. But once again, Liquid keep themselves in this one and advance onto a match point.
Only the worst part about that for Furia is that had that gone on for like a second and a half longer, then they would have won, regardless of whether Fantasy went down or not.
Yeah, PSK had to get on it. He had to get on the table. There was
not much time left whatsoever, but you know, Team Liquid, yeah, they forced themselves forward a little bit. I'm sure that was a frustrating one for you, Ollie.
I don't know what you're on about. This one's still looking good. Yep. We'll come back.
Okay. You okay? You just need a second?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. It was a good round. Honestly,
It was.
the fact that Rare got the diffuser down was pretty impressive given the circumstance. Ask again has had such a big part to play. Currently neck and neck with Nesk on kills, out-fragging Palu. And you can't take anything away from that. The fact that they were then able to hit the retake, FURIA just spent a little bit too much almost on the distraction to get the plant down.
Well, all Team Liquid need to do now is just one more round, changing things up a little bit as they've decided to bring along this castle. Guess there's going to be a bit of an extension. They want FURIA to have to spend a lot more of their resources to actually get through. It could be interesting what repercussions this has for someone like Heis, for example, who, you know, using those drones may have to spend them elsewhere. If there's more to get through. And they've been trying to use these Rotera drones quite a bit to shift the positions of these players. If he has to use them to actually remove utility, then that's not going to be an option.
It's very reminiscent of the defense that Liquid opened up with yesterday against MIBR. We had Ask playing inside a cigar shop. He had a bit of a nightmare in there, if we're being honest, but the castle barricades coupled with the laser gates is such a utility soak. Nesk, he lets him past. He gets through underneath, and Palu will be the first to fall. Resets, receives a ton of damage as well. FURIA showing they're clearly not out of this one just yet. Nesk, can he find the vertical? He got the glimpse, but he doesn't land the shot. Lender, he's able to take off Nesk's head very quickly, give an advantage here to FURIA. It's probably one of the quicker rounds we've seen in terms of kill progression, Gio.
Yeah, most of these rounds have been like, oh, there's 40 seconds left and there's still 10 guys left in the server. Wonder when someone's gonna die. But now FURIA have actually really pummeled into Team Liquid so far in this round. I mean, they know that they've desperately got to hold on to this game. They need to take it to overtime to have a hope of winning. Now, it's still true that both of these teams have qualified for the Cobra Elite 6. A win is not required for either. But even so, they really, really want this. There's another kill for FURIA onto Team Liquid. It puts it in a 4 versus 2 here, Ollie.
Fancy swings in and takes down PSK. If he didn't, the nade would have done the rest, and Ask is left inside of the shop. Fancy picks him up as well, as his location was likely known at that point. And his seconds numbered. FURIA, they drag one back, but they've still got a ways to go here. It is still going to be match point to Team Liquid, as they still lead 6-5. The last chance for Liquid to walk away with a full 3 points. And as you mentioned, Gio, whilst they don't need it, it would be nice. It would be nice to be able to take that top seed. I'm pretty sure that Liquid is still in a position to be able to do that, based on the difference between those in Liquid and FaZe. I believe it is only a couple of points. It isn't going to be a lot. And with the amount of games that we've got left to play, there is still going to be a chance. As we see Liquid on 50 points, FaZe on 55. So there is still a chance that Liquid could come out on top here. And this will be the start of that journey. But as if we needed to add any more suspense to this one, Gio.
I know.
Palu's net's died. He's out of the game. We've paused. We've had to wait.
We need ourselves some Palu.
We need some Palu on the stairs.
Heis doesn't have a webcam. I want to know what he's hiding.
Unsure. Maybe it was part of the when FURIA's net dropped. Maybe we didn't get the webcam back up.
Maybe Heis just doesn't exist.
Just an AI.
Yeah.
An AI Flores player.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We just had confirmation as well.
We've got confirmation on that. That's true.
Producer Simon.
Oh, I'm glad we got that cleared up. Is Palu also AI? Is he just hitting a reset?
No, resets is still in the lobby.
Ah, of course.
I hope he's not hitting him. Alright, well, Palu's back. So we have that at least. And we should be able to get in. But Ollie, pressure is on him. Who's going to win this round?
There's a lot riding on this round. There's a lot of hopes and dreams.
Yeah, but
for
I'm
everybody
asking
sat
you.
at home. Who's going to win it?
Yeah.
We are going to kitchen.
No biases.
We are going to kitchen.
All right.
Furia left it really late pushing into kitchen last time, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't deal with coat check at all, and they barely dealt with main door. So
They did try to do vertical pressure.
they did go for the vertical, which was that's a tick. That's a plus. I just think given the trend of the day, we're going to see an overtime.
Yeah.
This was the game that we build. This was the game that was the one to watch. We need our money's worth out of it. We need all available rounds, please.
Okay. So 15 rounds.
15.
Okay. Oh, we'll see if that ends up happening. Team Liquid win this round, then we're certainly not going to be getting that. We're just going to be 12-round plebs. Right, we're getting some 6 picks up in here. You guys can finally see. Rare switching over to the Ace. Nesk is going to be taking on the Wamai. So they've got a lot of projectile mitigation here with both the Jaeger and the Wamai. You remember when Wamai had a shield?
Yeah.
It was a good time.
OP Wamai.
Yeah? That was a good time. I mean, didn't Jaeger have a shield back in the day?
I feel like yes. I think we'll roll with that. The defender utility does often switch and swap, so it's funny to think that things that are just so normal now like just weren't actually ever a thing.
Like what?
Like Mozzie not having a C4.
Oh my god. I forgot about that.
I probably just started a riot somewhere, and I apologise, because if you'd forgotten and you'd forgotten the glory days of Mozzie C4, then I apologise. Yeah.
Or like Zafir having a withstand.
Yeah, very true.
Everyone misses that one. You know it.
Very true indeed. Let's see how we get around this round. We mentioned that Furia didn't really spend a lot of time pressuring into that main lobby, and they also didn't really deal with coat check all too much. And that was one of the places that really hurt them in the later part of the round. So we'll see if they choose to more directly deal with that. At the moment, it looks as though they're going for the vertical, which is probably going to shock Liquid, because I'm not sure that they know what it is on this site. I'm not sure if they even know the corresponding rooms, given how infrequently we see them play vertical here.
Wow.
It's obviously a joke. But something that isn't a joke is the amount of pressure that they're going to start feeling very... Number of C4s to battle back with, though.
What? One?
Is that all they've got? They've got one. What are they doing?
One whole C4.
That's a good number. One's a good number.
One entire C4 to battle back with. Hey, look, that could still make a lot of damage. That could do a lot of stuff. I mean, they're just getting this idea for where these players of Furia are. You can see Reset's a little bit antsy here behind the shield because he knows that white stairs is going to be contested. He can see and hear the gunfire right in front of him. And so he's probably going to have a lot more of a pressured job than he perhaps expected. It's probably Nesk who's sitting there being like, wow, I did not expect it to be this chill. Reset's being pushed out of his position as the ADS is getting burned and he's getting stunned out. Still needs to be holding on to that angle.
Seems as though Furia are almost targeting Ask. He's regularly getting chunked down at the start of the round. First kill, however, will go in Liquid's favour. Palu takes down Lender. Toxic Babe canister's now being used. Ask has one left in pocket. Vertical angle's being held, but there's nothing forcing these players to move on the horizontal, at least until a nade comes in from Fantasy, finally shutting Ask down, relieving a little bit of that pressure that last Toxic Babe would have provided. but still leaving FURIA in a position where they need to try and push on in, and they haven't sufficiently cleared the exterior of the site. Resets, he's in position to strike. Palu takes down Miracle, and potentially a second. No, Nesk is going to step up and pick up one onto Rare. 8 seconds, 4 versus 2. Not looking good at the moment. Resets down, Fantasy in with the trade. Finds 2, but they will be impactless. Liquid lock it up here, avoid the OT, and guarantee a full 3 points here on Kafe against FURIA.
The one game that we thought would go to OT didn't end up doing it, but I think it's still fair to say, Ollie, that FURIA put up a really big fight against Team Liquid, and we got to see some very interesting siege happen between these two teams, some great plays from both. I mean, Fantasy, look at his statistics. He actually top fragger in the entire lobby, but of course we're seeing it a bit more evened out across Team Liquid. Their fight for that top seed continues on as they prove themselves with the 3 points they collected today.
They really did, and Liquid are looking really hot, which is important because there's a lot of expectation on this roster. Given the history and given the pedigree that these guys have had and the name and the legacy that Liquid sort of commands, to see players like Ask and Reset stepping up to the plate and really getting involved and being a big reason as to why they're putting rounds on the board and wins is very nice indeed. I think Ask has maybe had the best weekend overall for consistency in terms of the way that he's been playing. It's really been noticed, I think, particularly when he gets himself onto that defense and he can start playing that smoke. He's a very, very good smoke player. And even on the attack, he is there, ready and willing to frag out. We're going to bring Riley back in as we have an interview lined up. I believe we might be getting to speak to Palu today from Liquid, which is always a pleasure and an honor. But we'll bring Riley in, we'll unpack that game, and we'll discuss further.
Yeah, let's talk about what we've just seen there. This was a game that we sort of headlined as being a very even matchup. And Gio, what are your thoughts? Do you think that both of the teams played to their full potential there? We know that FURIA have been an incredible touch recently. They've just been really kicking goals with both feet, but Liquid seem to be finding some of that old, we know it's a new team. We know that they've got 2 new people on the roster, but they seem to be finding some of that old Liquid magic once again, and they've strung together convincing wins here.
I mean, as with any of these teams that have qualified for Copa, I think there are things that they have planned that we're not going to get to see, but I do think both of them put in a decent amount of work into this game, probably just because they knew that the opponent was actually someone worth fearing.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that there was a lot of respect between both teams against each other. They were trying different things. We saw different compositions come out. They were trying to figure each other out, and that was a very genuine thing, regardless of whether or not they have like secret strats that are hidden for the Copa Elite 6. I definitely think this was a very legitimate game, yeah.
It's all data as well. That's the thing, Ollie, here. These are teams that are probably going to expect to face, if not necessarily each other, teams of this caliber in the upcoming Copa Elite 6 in the LATAM League finals. And so for that reason, any high-level practice they can get, even if they're not exposing those pocket strats, even if they're not giving away the game, they are at least gathering intel and getting information that's going to be useful for them come the LATAM League finals. Anyway, we've got our interview lined up, as you say, Palu coming in to have a chat with us as well. So let's get him in here and talk about what we've just seen here. Palu, thanks so much for joining us, mate, and congratulations on the win there. Liquid really seems to be back on form. You've picked up some wins recently, and after the roster changed, after some consolidation, you look like you're playing some really, really good siege. What's the mood like in the camp at the moment?
How can I say? Everyone is really happy about the recent result. On the beginning, we were having some struggles with adapting some things, but right now I think we are in a great shape. Reset and Eski are making a lot of job. Eski is making some plays. He is really adding a lot to us, especially in gunpowder. A lot of rounds we are in man advantage or in. Yeah, a man advantage. No, how can I say? I'm
Disadvantage.
Not sure. Disadvantage. Yeah. Sorry about it. And he makes some plays and he gets back and maybe get 2 kills and get the man advantage back to us. So we are right now playing I think all the maps on the map pool. So we have a lot really strong map pool. So the teams don't know many times which map we are going to play. And that's it, don't know.
I think it really leads in quite nicely to what I wanted to ask you, Paolo, and that is that, with Ass coming in and sort of taking a little bit of the pressure off because he's just able to get so many kills out of nowhere, it must free up, other players on the team that then can start to focus a little bit further on their own game. Now, looking forward toward the Copa Elite 6 that's coming up, obviously we've been speaking to everyone about it. Now, the overall judgment is that it's going to be a very difficult one. Do you sort of share that opinion?
For sure, like LATAM is really difficult because most of the teams like play at a high level, so there is not like a team like playing. If you are playing, even though a team that's down at the, it's hard. I haven't been speaking
Like
English
the
in a
bottom
while,
of the
so-
leaderboard.
Yeah, at the bottom of the
Yeah,
leaderboard,
yeah.
you can be like silly because a little mistake will cost you the match. Like some rounds we had a little miscommunications and cost us rounds. It doesn't matter the team we are facing. Like we have to be really careful and play like really close with no gaps.
Paolo, coming up to next weekend, you guys are playing 3 games. Obviously, right now, your whole thing is seeing if you're going to get the first seed, because currently FaZe Clan is sat in that position. Which game do you think next week is going to be the hardest one for you guys?
It's hard to say. Like right now we are playing like most to fill the bracket. Like we don't have anything to go because the top, I think top 1, top 2 goes directly to the semifinals in BR6 finals. So we are like looking for top 1, top 2. We like our goal, even though we want the first, like, but it doesn't matter for us. But how can I say? I think probably Team 1. Like they even said on an interview that they aren't like, how can I say it? They doesn't matter right now for them because they won't change anything on the next steps for the competition. Like they will play in the quarterfinals. I think they can't reach the top 1 or top 2, so they are just playing. So those matches that doesn't have anything to change, they will just like YOLO play. I don't know how to say, like they will just rush and stuff like that. So sometimes it's kind of scary, but for us it doesn't even matter a lot.
Well, Paolo, look, mate, congratulations on the win. We're looking forward to seeing how you go next week, and of course, how things pan out for you in the LATAM League final. So thanks once again for taking the time to join us, and congratulations on today's performance.
Thank you very much. Go by the 8.